Well, in Utah in particular, they're uniquely situated to address this issue because they understand both what's going on economically in the state and the impact that's having on the economic outcomes for the state, and also just the cultural and moral imperative to address this issue. And they have the leadership format and forum to take it on and be able to make sure that the state is leading the way to make sure families are staying at the center and moving them on a path to self-reliance. I think they have the ability through the use of data and funding to make sure that data is being properly utilized to continue to focus on outcomes and invest where we know the impacts are needed and where gaps need to be filled. And they also have the ability to establish how funds are going to be expended to focus on the families and to be able to focus on those outcomes. I don't think that in every system that's serving families, there's the same level of opportunity because of those critical components of having access to the data and access to funding and then being able to control how that money is utilized. And they also have the forum, the platform to talk about it and to change the narrative on what we're seeing with families experiencing intergenerational poverty. They can see that data and take that data and help dispel some of the myths that continue to perpetuate situations for families, and then use their platform to make sure that the focus is squarely on what's actually going on with families. So I work at the Department of Workforce Services. And in my role, I serve both as the state's director of the Office of Child Care and also its advisor on the Intergenerational Poverty Initiative, which by its very nature is family focused. In the Office of Child Care, we're prioritizing early childhood and child care to make sure that mom and dad are able to work and address the barrier of child care while knowing that their kids are in a healthy and safe place that's supporting their child's development. So that's my technical role. In the Intergenerational Poverty Initiative, I do my part to make sure that each year we are looking at the data and the outcomes impacting families across 4 domains of child well-being, and ensuring that the Intergenerational Welfare Reform Commission stays focused on those outcomes and addresses those gaps and successes so that the state knows which direction it's heading in next. And then, of course, the intergenerational poverty effort is multi-stakeholder oriented, and the Welfare Reform Commission has representatives from Human Services, Department of Health, Juvenile Justice, State School Superintendent, and our Lieutenant Governor, and the Department of Workforce Services. And that requires all of the agencies working together, sharing data across the systems to better understand the barriers and challenges confronting families experiencing intergenerational poverty. What states can learn from Utah, I think, is collaboration and cooperation and coordination is critical to achieving outcomes. And even though our systems tend to be very siloed, there's still a way to work together within those silos to achieve the best outcomes for families. I also believe that leadership is key, and in order for states to take on the issue of intergenerational poverty, the solutions are out there and they exist. But it is challenging work, and leadership from the top. In Utah, we have our Lieutenant Governor and Governor very involved in this issue, making sure that it stays a priority for our state agencies and keeps the focus squarely on the families. And that's critically important, and without that leadership, other priorities can come into play. And then I also think other states can learn the importance of data and data sharing. And we hear a lot about the challenges of sharing data across multiple systems, and that's definitely true. But figuring out how to address those challenges and work around them, because it always has to start with the data so that states can be sure that they're addressing those gaps that are revealing themselves in their state, and not just what everybody assumes might be going on. Well, what's next for Utah is us taking the data that we collect every year and sharing it with our counties that have high rates of children experiencing intergenerational poverty. We did that about a year ago. Those counties all developed plans at the local level to address intergenerational poverty. The state recognizing that all the solutions can't come from the state, that the counties know their communities best. And what we're doing next is providing funding to those counties to implement their plans. And the counties have to be outcome focused and identify data and measures that they're going to keep track of, so we achieve those family outcomes that the state has prioritized. We also are still working on a lot of really important issues. The one thing about tackling this challenge is that there are no quick solutions. They cross sectors, they cross issues, and it takes time. And we need to make sure that the state continues to prioritize the outcomes over the long term. So there are things that still need to occur, particularly, I would say, in the areas of behavioral health. But we're very excited that we've seen some very positive outcomes in the areas of education and family economic stability. The other thing that this effort has generated is an increased focus on building a robust and coordinated early childhood system. So that's something else that's going to be taking place. And then I think the remaining big issue that needs to be addressed is a more coordinated system of serving families, regardless of which state agency they enter, to have the families' needs be addressed.